So from now on I think I'm going to break up my analysis of each Manchester United game into smaller videos throughout the week just so I can analyse each topic in more detail. And so I thought I'd start off with the first 2 minutes of Ruben Amorim's Manchester United. So here we see as the ball gets circulated across the Ipswich back line that Manchester United out of possession in the middle third are now using a much more vertically and horizontally compact pentagon shape, with the midfield and forward lines being a lot more narrower than under Ten Hag or Ruud van Nistelrooy. And you can see what the defensive strategy is when Garnacho moves out to close down Tuanzebe, as Amorim is prepared to allow the space wide of the pentagon to develop in order to allow United to cut off the passing lanes into the opposition players between the lines in central positions, as Garnacho is doing here, stopping Tuanzebe from moving that ball into Hutchinson in the half space. As Tuanzebe turns in field, you can see how well Amorim's defensive shape is organised, purely from a positional point of view, as the midfield and forward lines are able to compress the space between them as Tuanzebe looks to play through the centre. Whilst because United are now using a back five, the two wide centre-backs Mazraoui and Evans, with the security of De Ligt between them, are able to push out onto the Ipswich players in the half space if they receive the ball to feet, with the back five in general providing greater defensive security if the opposition do manage to work the ball in behind the United forward line. Tuanzebe plays a pass into Kayuste, and because of Fernandes' narrow positioning, he's able to instantly apply the pressure to Morsey from that central position, cutting the passing lane in behind and forcing him backwards, and this pass backwards is used to initiate a trigger press, with Bruno Fernandes moving out to apply the pressure, and Casemiro, who actually is quite late on this occasion, also being expected to shift up the pitch quickly on that side in order to push on to Kayuste in behind Bruno Fernandes in the press. But Bruno Fernandes does well to apply pressure early while simultaneously cutting the passing lane into Kayuste, forcing Ipswich long, and after Mazraoui wins a header we see an example of United still looking to transition the attack quickly after a turnover, with Eriksen laying the ball off to Casemiro, and this is actually a very good pass from Casemiro, splitting the Ipswich midfield line into Rashford's feet, who does well to recognise the opportunity to drop off and link the play, and so the intention is there but the execution is slightly off, as Rashford's layoff is a yard or two too wide for Eriksen, which means he has to stretch, and so despite Garnacho having started his run from an excellent position centrally in the half space, having drawn Tuanzebe high up the pitch, with both he and Dalot in 1v1 races against Tuanzebe and Burns on that side, Eriksen is on the stretch and so his through ball is overhit slightly, allowing the ball to run through to the Ipswich keeper. The clearance upfield gives Andre Onana possession and we see Ruben Amorim's first build-up phase at Manchester United. And I'm going to break down exactly how this led to the opening goal in just a minute, but before that, if you want to check out any of the new season jerseys, go over to Jersey FIFA. They've also got a variety of international and club retro jerseys as well. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you'll get a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description and comment section below. So what we can notice here is that, like at Sporting, Amorim wants his central centre-back, De Ligt in this game, to push to the edge of the box, alongside Casemiro, with Eriksen sitting slightly ahead, creating a pentagon around United's box, with Andre Onana creating the back three with Mazraoui and Evans. And throughout this game I think it was evident that Ruben Amorim may have to shuffle around positions for players in possession, because I just don't think De Ligt looked comfortable pushing up onto the edge of the box and receiving the ball with his back to goal, and overall I just think United need to work on their patterns of play and understanding during the build-up phase, but the initial signs are promising, as when Johnny Evans plays a pass back to Onana, you can see that because the distance between United's midfield double pivot is now a lot less than it was under Ruud and Ten Hag, now Andre Onana has a lot more shorter passing options. Now ideally from here United should be looking for Onana to split Delap and Hutchinson, with De Ligt maybe shifting his position to his right, United's left, a bit quicker in order to allow Onana to split Ipswich's forward line press. But to be fair, Delap does do well to arc his run in order to cut off that passing lane into De Ligt. But this does however open up the pass out to Mazraoui, and when he receives possession the pressure comes from Schmodux, but this is where we see the benefit of having wide players who don't solely sit high and wide, but are encouraged to drop deep on the flank and open up passing lanes from inside the defensive third. And so now as Mazraoui has possession, the passing lanes open wide of Ipswich's narrow frontline press, giving Mazraoui an outball, and as Ahmad receives the ball, Leif Davis, the Ipswich left back, has been drawn high up the flank, vacating space in the channel, and centrally you can also see that United have a staggered box midfield, with Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro slightly deeper on this near side, as Garnacho and Eriksen sit slightly higher on the far side, with Garnacho positioned in the half space. Bruno Fernandes drifts into the space behind Leif Davis, and Ahmad finds him with a well-timed pass down the line, which also drags Burgess high and wide into the channel, and now Bruno Fernandes and Ahmad can link very effectively on United's right side, with Ahmad immediately carrying on his run after playing the pass up the line, running off Leif Davis into the space Bruno Fernandes has vacated, and so this interplay on the flank essentially comes down to Bruno and Ahmad moving into the space that the other one has created through dragging the Ipswich players on that side high and wide. Bruno returns the favour with another well-timed pass, this time it's reversed into Ahmad's path, and from here I think we can see that Ahmad certainly has a potential explosiveness to be a top level winger, as despite not being as quick as say Rashford or maybe even Garnacho in a straight race, when he is carrying the ball, his ability to slow down and then accelerate allows him to manipulate the defender's body positioning, forcing them to slow down before accelerating past them, as he does here to Kayuse, baiting him into thinking he can make the sliding tackle, waiting for the tackle to come from Kayuse before quickly knocking the ball forward and accelerating past the challenge. And this is what I mean when I say Ahmad is a reactive dribbler, as he's far better at waiting and then baiting the opposition defender into putting in a challenge before then reacting to the defender's decision and exploiting the space appropriately. And now on the far side you can see Garnacho and Dalot have been able to run off their defenders in their respective 1v1s, with Tuanzebe forced to leave Garnacho and tuck in narrow alongside O'Shea, as Dalot has also outrun Wes Burns on the outside. However, Ahmad doesn't need those two, as on the inside Rashford recognises the opportunity is going to come from a low pass across the box, and so he bursts into the space between O'Shea and Tuanzebe, and I think Ahmad shows why he's a level above Garnacho at the moment, because his decision making and the variety in what he can do around the box means that in this situation, like Anthony, he isn't going to be constantly forced to look to cut back inside onto his left foot into a space that isn't there. He can just get the ball out of his feet and with his right foot play the pass across the box, and Rashford gets there ahead of the keeper to knock it into the net. Now, whilst throughout most of the game United did struggle to play through the centre of the pitch, with Ipswich doing a very good job of cutting passing lanes and remaining compact, I don't think this is a massive concern, as in general it's harder to play through the centre and will take more time on the training ground, particularly given that most of the United players haven't been used to playing in a setup where the strategy is to intentionally and consistently play through the centre under pressure. However, when progressing the ball down the wide areas, I thought we looked incredibly promising, with some patterns of play already easily identifiable. Here we see in the first half Johnny Evans receives possession with Omari Hutchinson pushing out to apply pressure from a narrow position, and what you can see on United's left flank is that both Dalot and Garnacho are making forward movements towards the ball, not only to open up passing lanes for Johnny Evans, but also to drag Wes Burns and Tuanzebe high up the pitch, so United can exploit the space in behind. And that's exactly what happens here. Evans feeds the pass up the line to Dalot, and you can see Dalot and Garnacho are both on the same page, as soon as the pass goes into Dalot, Garnacho checks his run and looks to spin in behind Tuanzebe. Dalot is aware of the space up the channel, as well as Garnacho's movement, and this also shows the benefit of having wing-backs on the opposite side to their strongest foot, as Dalot, being a right footer on the left, is able to play a curling first time pass up the line, releasing Garnacho in behind Tuanzebe, and now Garnacho has the ball in the final third, isolating Tuanzebe in a 1v1. In the second half, United's best pieces of play also came down the flank, this time the right channel. As Shaw has possession, you can clearly see the 3-2 setup, but also that Bruno Fernandes later on in the game was given more freedom to roam alongside the double pivot, getting on the ball in front of the Ipswich midfield line, mainly as a way of disrupting the position of the midfielders and dragging them higher up the pitch. Fernandes looks for a line-breaking pass into Agate, and once again Ipswich do a very good job of reading it and being quick to cut the passing lane, and so United circulate the ball across the back line, and eventually De Ligt plays a pass out to Mazraoui, and instantly you can see Schmodix applying pressure from that narrow position, with Ahmad dropping deep on the flank, dragging Leif Davis high up the pitch. But look at how well United are able to progress the ball down the channel. The pass goes into Ahmad, and instantly he's looking for that quick pass back inside with his right foot into Eriksson, rather than looking to drive down the outside of Davies and getting squeezed out on the touchline. But you can also see that Garnacho has dropped off into this half space area, and so this means that when Eriksson does receive the pass inside from Ahmad, rather than having to play a long pass up the channel looking to release Ahmad in what would be the kind of direct attack that we would see under Ten Hag, the sort of low probability pass that could easily give the ball back to the opposition, now because Garnacho has been instructed to move towards the ball, he and Eriksson can exchange a quick 1-2 before before Garnacho once again from that half space area lays the ball off and immediately looks to spin his man, wherefrom Amad can now check his run on the flank and look to receive the ball 2 feet from Eriksson, and now because Burgess has opted to push out to apply the pressure to Eriksson in order to try to win the ball back high on the flank, Garnacho now has a massive amount of space on the inside. However, here is where we see that United still need work in terms of coordination, in terms of movement, higher up the pitch amongst the front three. As Amad's checked run provides him with the space to receive the ball to feet and turn, I think this is where Amorim needs to give his centre forwards different instructions depending on who's playing there. If this is Xerxes in Rashford's position, 100% you want him to be the player to drop off and look to link the play with his back to goal. Firstly, to open up the passing lane from Amad into his feet, but also to allow Garnacho to be the player to then run in behind, because obviously with his pace, it makes him a much greater threat than Xerxes when running in behind, especially if Xerxes' deeper movement could drag a centre-back out of the back line and open up the space for Garnacho to run into. However, with Rashford, his link play with his back to goal is not great, with him not even being a centre forward, let alone a deeper line forward, and so in this sort of position, I think Amorim should be instructing Rashford to spin and look to make a run between O'Shea and Davies, as this will open up the space for Garnacho to then receive the ball, stop O'Shea being able to move out and allowing Garnacho to drive the ball forward, whilst also offering the option for Garnacho to release Rashford in behind down this right side. Instead, Garnacho and Rashford get in a muddle, they aren't on the same wavelength and Rashford's layoff is poor, leading to the attack breaking down. So I am also going to be doing a video where I talk about one of the questions that came up in the Patreon Instagram group chat. If you do want to sign up for that, I'll leave it linked in the description. I'm going to be talking about how I think Amorim can make a few changes to his build-up setup to improve United's ability to play through the centre. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when that video comes out.